and introduce not only one of the members of our board of directors, but also a GPAR PAR director and the chair of our diversity committee, Anastasia Dewan. Anastasia, good morning.
Good morning, all. I'm Anastasia Dewan. I am the diversity chair for the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors. And in recognition of Fair Housing Month, myself, my co-chair, Rachel Murray Richards, and our entire diversity committee would like to welcome and thank you for attending today's event. Today, we're pleased to have Tracey Gordon, our city's Register of Wills, present along with her colleagues. We look forward to learning about the process of estate planning and how it lends to financial security for our clients and ourselves. So with that, we can get right into it. Thank you and welcome, Registrar Gordon.
We have a mute problem.
Okay, sorry. Good morning. Good morning. I have been wanting to meet with you all for so long to talk to you about some of our role as Registrar of Wills, how we can partner with you all, because I often get emails and phone calls from you all needing assistance on moving forward with seller properties. And a lot of times the sellers don't understand that they don't legally own the property because it's still in the deceased person's name. And so I always wanted to talk to you all about how you all can help us get this information out to people so it can be smoother for you all and smoother for us. Again, my name is Tracey Gordon. I'm the Registrar of Wills and Clerk of Orphans Court here in the city of Philadelphia, one of 67 counties. We are considered a first-class city. Our office is a state office. We fall under the first judicial district. This office has been in existence for over close to 400 years. Back when William Penn and the Quakers came over from England and divvied up land, and they came up with the Constitution, which gave them provisions and laws to make sure they protect their generational wealth, and is a process on how you transfer wealth here in the state of Pennsylvania. All 50 states have different rules. So these rules that we're talking about today is from the county, the state of Pennsylvania. Some of the responsibilities, as you can see on the screen, is we validate wills, we collect inheritance taxes. We just collect them and send them off to Harrisburg. Last year, the end of 2021, we sent $90.5 million to Harrisburg in inheritance taxes. Every year we spend between $80 to $100 million in inheritance and estate taxes to Harrisburg. Out of all the 67 counties, we come between first and second in the amount that we send to City Hall. We probate estates, assign executive privileges, issue short certificates, and we preserve and protect records and archives that date back to the 1600s. We have William Penn's will, Ben Franklin's will, Grace Kelly, her father's will. We have wills of any of your family. We have to store and protect those. I am also the clerk of Orphans Court. Some of my services there, most people don't know. We issue and validate marriage licenses, and we accept filings for the Orphans Court. So those are some of the responsibilities that I have. Those are some of the responsibilities that I'm responsible for here in the city of Philadelphia. So let's go to the next slide. Probate. That's one of the things that I'm learning in the city of Philadelphia, that people don't understand the importance of estate planning and planning for their death. A lot of people, depending on what culture you come from, believe that, when you start planning for your estate, you're preparing for your death. They believe that you don't have to make a will until you get old. And I always say that you make a will when you get an asset, not when you get old. Assets aren't just material things like houses, cars, collection of postage stamps, pictures, anything that you consider important. But most people don't know that your assets also include your minor children. Any child under 18, someone has to take care of them just in case something happens to you and your spouse. Also, you may have a disabled child that someone has to take care of them all of their lives. Many times they outlive you. So you want to have a plan to say, if in case something happens to me, I would like this person to be their guardian, this person to take care of their estate, this person to, these are the people that are going to inherit my wealth. And the way you do that is you make a will. You, under the laws of the state of Pennsylvania, you have the right by law to decide who inherited your things. It's not an automatic transfer. A lot of people think that because I'm the direct descendant, or I'm the only child, or I'm the spouse, that everything is automatically transferred to you, and that is not the case. There is a process that you have to come through, and it's called probate. And right now, most people do not understand the importance of making wills and planning for their death. And so, Kareem, I don't need the screen. It's distracting me. Thank you. I can do the lecture without the screen. Thank you, guys. I like to be really personal. I like to see people. So I was elected, I'm going on my third year, and I was elected January of 2020. And within 3 weeks, the entire government shut down because of COVID-19. And within 3 weeks, our office was back open and in operation, because I understood and my team understood that our office, we are essential workers. Real estate has to continually transfer, and people needed to get into probate their estates. So let's just talk about probate. In order for you to be able to get access to assets that you think you are due, the best way to make sure there is a smooth transition for your family is to create a will. A will is a gift to take an effect after your death. The best type of will is called a self-proven affidavit. That will normally is or should be created with you and your attorney, 2 witnesses, notarize or a notarized copy of that will, and that will is bulletproof. In other words, when they come and bring that will and you name your executor, who is the person that is going to be the person that is going to take care of your business after your death, because you can't take care of your business, that person is called an executor if it's a man and an executrix if it's a woman. You bring that will down to my office for probate. You are in and out of our office within 30 minutes because you bought a will that even if somebody contested it, it almost 99.9% is going to beat any case that comes against it, because you had the lawyer that you consulted with, you had 2 witnesses that do not have to be located because it's a self-proven affidavit, and you have a notary. When you don't get a will or make a will that is a self-proven affidavit, like a handwritten will, which of course, you can make, and I have approved those type of wills, you leave it up to people to contest those wills. And this is the information that I'm trying to get to the citizens of Philadelphia, because some way between the 1600s and now, people in Philadelphia didn't understand the importance of making wills. They thought it was, or they think it's an automatic transfer, and that's when they cause problems. So when that happens, they still have to come down and probate, but they have to come and ask or request from me as a judge to assign them as the administrator. The difference, executor, executrix, you choose. Administrator, I choose. And I have to listen to families that in most cases fight and determine from those members who I feel would be the best person to be the administrator over the estate. And then from there, I have to determine if one of those relatives they just keep fighting. Sometimes I have to reassign and assign an attorney to be the administrator because they just won't stop fighting, which is going to drain money from your estate because you have to pay those attorneys. Whereas when you make the will, you assign an executive, you let them know you assigned them. You put the will up into a safe place and let someone know where the will is, because oftentimes people come up to my courtroom and they say, I know my mother had a will, I just can't find it. So that means you don't have a will. Or I'll have grandkids come up and say, my grandmother left me this house. Everybody knows that she left me this house. I lived with her, she raised me. I lived with her until her death. And I believe that I deserve the house. And without a will, the state made a will already, and it's called intestate, and it favors biology. So if that grandmother had children in that family tree, the children would be the next of kin and not the granddaughter. And those children would all have to agree to sign renunciation, to sign over the property to that grandchild. And in many cases, that does not happen. So I've seen cases where grandkids are heartbroken because they know that the grandmother intended on them to receive the property, and their uncles and aunts decide that, hey, we are the next of kin, and either you buy us out, or we want to be bought out, or we want the house ourselves. And so that's why it's so important that people understand basic financial literacy. Understand that there are rules in this country, particularly in the state of Pennsylvania, on how you are to transfer your generational wealth and your assets. And the best way you do that is getting a self-proven affidavit in a form of a will or some type of will. So a lot of times we get questions about short certificates. That's the first thing, when you go to that bank account and, you want to withdraw money because you need to pay for some funeral expenses, or you need to pay the mortgage, or whatever you need to do to survive after a loved one has passed. And the bank will tell you, you need a short certificate, or the realtor will say, you need a short certificate. And a lot of times people don't know that when you go to the bank, if it's $10,000 or less, they have to release the money over to you if you can show that you are proof of relation, a death certificate, and a funeral will, and proof that they're one of the heirs. They have to release. So if it's $9,999, they have to release it to you. And I just learned that there is a bill and the state that they're waiting for it to pass, that they're trying to up that from $20,000. Now, many banks don't know that. Banks think it's $2,000. Banks think that any amount of money, you have to provide a short certificate. That's not the case. If it's $10,000 or more, yes, you do have to come to our office and probate that estate to be able to get the money out of the bank. If it's $10,000 or less, you don't have to do that. So unfortunately, because There is no financial literacy in our schools. I am a college graduate from Temple Fox School of Business, and I, my concentration was risk management and insurance, and I was taught everything about all the insurances and what to do, life insurance, car insurance, etc. When I purchased my home, the realtor was really good. She was like, of course, I knew I had to get homeowners insurance, the HOA plan. I knew that the mortgage is definitely going to protect their assets. But the broker said, hey, you may need life insurance because you have 4 children, a divorced parent, so I did that. Nowhere did anyone tell me in school, high school, college, anywhere that, when you get an asset or obtain an asset, you need to make a will. And that's where the conversation that I wanted to have with the realtors, like I had with the funeral association. The funeral association just recently, some legislation was introduced into city council by Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson, and it passed that all funeral homes and cemeteries have to provide information about the Registrar of Wills office. In other words, they have to have some sort of leaflet by law inside the package of the funeral package, the cost, or whatever they give out, to their customers. It has to have some type of insert. And I thought, I just wanted to throw this idea around to you all, that I thought that when, a property is transferred, maybe there could be an information packet placed in there about the importance of making wills and why. So, for instance, in my my marriage department, I redesigned the brochure to include, what is a will and the importance of making a will. We are in the process of designing the brochure that's going to go to all the funeral parlors. And we wanted to say, like, if you have a will, this is where you go. These are the documents that you need to bring. If you don't have the will, you still have to come down to us, and these are the documents you have to bring. So education has been primary on my list of promises that I made to the citizens of Philadelphia. That one, I would educate people about my role as the Registrar of Wills and our responsibilities. And then the second thing I wanted to address, the Tangled title crisis that we have in the city of Philadelphia. And so I'm sure you all have heard Tangled titles, or about Tangled titles, or you're dealing with clients that are in Tangled titles that they didn't know they were in Tangled title. But Tangled titles is basically when someone believes they have a legal interest in a home, whether they feel they own it or inherited it, but the name is still in a deceased person's name. And when that happens, that means that they cannot conduct any legal business with the house. They don't own the house. I don't care if they're the only child. I don't care if they just do not own the house. The house is still in the dead person's name. So they can't get homeowners insurance. They can't sell the property, which you all know. They can't pass the property down. They can't get home equity loans to improve their homes. They can't get loans, take out loans to send their children to college or trade school. They can't get basic system repair grant money, which is free money to assist people who fall under a certain income requirement, and allows them to be able to get basic system needs like repair of heaters. I had a guest on one of my shows that I do every Thursday, and he just was running down the list of things that he got repaired in his house because his family owned the house. He got a new chimney liner, a new heater. They ran electrical line. They ran a new plumbing line, and this cost him zero. Why? Because he owned the house and he qualified for this basic system repair grant. Recently, the Pew Charitable Trust conducted a study. At my request, they had already done a study previous to my getting elected, letting, the elected officials know that there is a crisis of tangled titles in the city of Philadelphia. I had requested from them, could they identify where those tangled titles were so we can get the necessary information out to help and assist these people that are living in houses that potentially they may lose part of their generational wealth. And they identified 10,000 of those, and they all fell in a certain area. If you can put up the map, John, if you have access to both of the maps, if you can, where they show where those tangled titles were. And those tangled titles are in the areas of West Philly, Southwest Philly, North Philly, Germantown, lower Northeast. This is where the high concentrations of these tangled titles, where they are. Another study was released the same time that this tangled title study was released, from City Controller Rebecca Reinhardt, and she released a map to show where the shooting victims by zip code, and those zip codes were 19143, 19139, which is West and Southwest Philly, 19132, which is North Philly, 19134, the lower Northeast, 19140. These are where most of the shooting victims are. The map, once they get it up, will show that those areas where the tangled titles are, where people believe they own the properties, but they don't, those are areas in Black and brown communities. Is a very racial divide. The University of Penn, during the same time, released a study that said that if these houses or these people that are living in these tangled titles were able to get a basic system repair grant, there it is right there. Okay, thank you guys. Okay. That one, the back, go back. Both of them side by side, that one, okay? So look at the map, guys. $1.1 billion in dead Philadelphia capital, 10,000 tangled title, meaning not just building, these are 10,000 families. Can't sell, inherit, can't renegotiate with the bank, can't borrow against it, can't do anything with those houses. And those are the areas, the darker in that blue, the darker the area, the more the tangled titles are. They contribute to violence, gentrification, flight, and loss of generational wealth. We had that. If you take those maps and put them on top of one another, you will see those are the same direct areas. And that was the second thing that I promised that I would try to come with some sort of solution, and definitely information and assistance to these people that are in these tangled titles, because one, they don't know, some of them don't even know they're in tangled titles until they try to sell the house. And that goes for the part of financial literacy. And that's why I wanted to talk to you all at the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors, so we can figure out, when you do sell property to people or transfer any type of real estate, that information needs to go in there about the importance of making wills. $1.1 billion. I feel like that if the city of Philadelphia, who is consistently, since I've been involved in community organizing and politics, the one constant that I always hear is that Philadelphia is the largest, poorest city in the nation. And I was like, I'm tired of hearing this. There has to be some type of solution. And I think this is a solution. I think that if we can get these homes and the names of the rightful heirs, look at the potential and the possibility. It definitely would stabilize or decrease homelessness. It definitely would allow for the transfer of real estate. Everybody that may not want to live here, but they definitely should want to not only sell their property, but at least get the market rate for the property. Oftentimes, people abandon these properties. Look at all the properties that are in the land bank. Thousands and thousands of abandoned lots and properties are sitting in the land bank. I will bet they were Tangled titles. Like, I don't know anybody in their same mind that just will up and say, okay, I don't want my house no more, I'm leaving. And I certainly know not in Philadelphia now, where our land, Philadelphia is like the hottest. You can't even keep a house on the market now. But all these houses that you see in this dark area can't be sold, can't be passed down. They can't even get loans. They can't get basic system repair. Crime drops 22%. And we don't have a solution to crime. That's a clear solution. I'm a block captain for over 20 years. I know what one house on one block can devastate a block, which is why I'm still a block captain, because I'm not going to allow my block to become that block where they sell drugs, that block where they play music all times of the night, that block. I'm a realtor's dream, my block. The houses don't stay for sale for long. And look at this map. And look how the darker the darker the area is, the more, like, some areas is like almost black with Tangled titles. You can remove that. So one of the other things that I did was I created a outreach unit for the first time in Philadelphia history. I have an outreach unit. I have a communication director who understands Philadelphia, understands just the politics of Philadelphia. And we started doing what we call Plan, Prepare, Protect seminars every Thursday on Facebook from 6 to 7. Please tune in and like our page, hashtag PHLROW on all the social media engines such as Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok. We're on all of them. So we started what we call Plan, Prepare, Protect. Plan your estate to prepare your heirs to protect your generational wealth. And we're getting ready to add probate. Plan, Prepare, Protect, and probate. So we started those, and we start bringing in elected officials and people that are in the industry or that can make decisions. They can make decisions to help these people get out of these Tangled titles so they can legally own their property, so they can live in these properties, so they can borrow off of these properties, so they can sell these properties, whatever they want to do. And in addition to that, we started a little series called Register Reacts. And this is like a skit. My communication director forced me to be an actress or actor. I don't think I'm an actor, but we took some pop culture and movies that dealt with estate issues. Like, remember Soul Food? Remember the knife pulled out and the family was fighting. And remember in Game of Thrones, when the king was on his deathbed and he told everybody to leave so he can, verbalize his last will and testament. And so we would, go to those scenes, and then we would correct them on, best practices. And those have been a hit. We've been showing them at different venues in the summertime, right before movies. And it helps people lighten it up, death is pretty much gloom and doom. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it because they're superstitious about just the idea of talking about it. A lot of our seniors don't want to talk about it because They feel like you're prying into their business. Within the next 25 years, $76 trillion of assets or generational wealth is going to transfer from my generation, the baby boomers, to the millennials or generational X. And we're not prepared here in Philadelphia. We're not prepared. Studies have shown that, of course, uneducated people that without college degrees, this is the disparage or the statistics of wills amongst between white and black. John can put up the actual the statistics. I don't remember all the numbers, but even college graduates, there's a large disparity between white college graduates and black college graduates who make wills. So I'm telling you, we have to make sure that these schools, are educating and putting this in the curriculum, because a lot of times, we have a large immigrant population here, and the way they transfer property over in their countries, especially war, like, they'll just take your property there, but a lot of them, the way they pass down their generational wealth is totally different from how we do it in America and how we do it in the state of Pennsylvania. So they need to be educated as well. I sit through hearings on a weekly basis, and what I'm learning, what I'm learning is the reason why a lot of people fight is because they don't understand the process. They don't understand what an executor is. They don't understand why their sister is asking to be the administrator. They're thinking she's trying to be the boss so she can take everything. So when we get, we have a process where, I'm not an attorney. That's why I've hired 2 solicitors. One is on right now, Attorney Karima Yelverton and Attorney Frank Capiz. And I have my legal clerks in there, and we talk to people and we listen to people. And we're finding that most people who are fighting in their families, they just don't really understand the process. And they're mourning. And that's why I always try to tell the senior, do you want your kids fighting? Do you want your families fighting? Do you want people stealing from one another? Do you want, if you want your granddaughter to have the house, you have to put it in writing. There are free will clinics. We partner with a lot of legal associations around the city. Karima can put up the list for you. All the organizations that can probably help your clients get the free legal assistance. And I started a new program called Probate Deferment Initiative, or PDI. And this is a program that's income-based, where we are assisting people with the fees that you incur when you probate. So there are probate fees that many people can't afford. And so my office have created a program, Probate Deferment Initiative, where we defer those fees. And we do not come for those fees as long as you are going to live in a property. We do not come for those fees, but if you sell the property, we want our fees. And then we partner with Commissioner Jim Leonard at the Recorder of Deeds. And many people do not know there is a difference between the Registrar of Wills, me, and the Recorder of Deeds, Commissioner Jim Leonard. The Registrar of Wills is an elected office every 4 years. We are elected when the mayor is elected, when city council elected, when the sheriff's elected, when the commissioners are elected. The Registrar of Wills is elected during that same time, which is next year. The Commissioner of Deeds or Recorder of Deeds is an appointed position by the mayor. That commissioner is Commissioner Jim Leonard. We partnered, so the fees that you incur once you get the short certificate from our office, so you can go over to get the necessary paperwork you need to transfer the information into the people who are the persons who inherit the property. That's a totally different office. And he is waiving some of the fees or most of the fees that you would incur. But the most important thing in this program that we are doing is we are connecting them with free legal advice. because some of these estates are generations, is layers, and it's real complicated. And so they get free legal advice. And from there, after, we have, without a budget, we have untangled 14 tangled titles, and out of 10,000 or more. I mean, many people will say 14 tangled titles. Oh, that's not a lot. Hey, that's 14 families that can now live in the comfort of a home that they own. And city council is listening and they're hearing. Our state legislators, I have educated everybody on city council about the role of the Register of Wills and our responsibilities. I've educated everybody in the state legislature, all their staff, everybody in the state senate, all their staff, all our Congress people in Philadelphia, we've educated their staff. We have a pretty open door policy. We never shut down, but for 3 weeks after the pandemic, we are still open by appointment only because of COVID. If people do happen to walk in and not know that, we try our best to accommodate them, but we found it's safer and it's quicker when you make your appointment. Our phone numbers is 215-686-6250. If you go on our website, phila.gov/wills, you will go to our website. You can click and hit Spanish. It would translate totally in Spanish. We have commercials that are getting ready to come out. One is going to be in Spanish about the consequences of not making wills. So we hired actors to act out scenarios because this subject is very touchy. So you might want to just pull grandma to the side, open your laptop and turn on one of our skits so she can kind of hear. Because once these grandparents hear this, they start saying, okay, all right, yeah, maybe I should put it in writing. I had a distant family member who I basically never hear from. It's a family member, and I received a phone call. Hey, can you refer me to an attorney? You know what I mean? I need to make a will. I was just so happy about that because she had seen some of my commercials. And my history of my family, I've seen it before I became a registrar of wills. The fighting, the loss of generational wealth that has occurred in my family. I'm sure you all have had that as well somewhere, or a friend, somebody knows somebody that's in a tangled title. And the thing is about our communities, particularly communities in Philly, some people may be embarrassed by it. People do not trust government sometimes. People, normally think people are being, gossipy, but we really want to try to get to help people here in Philadelphia. And so that's what I did. My last promise was to diversify the office to make it look like Philadelphia, and we've accomplished that as well. And so I'm happy to take any questions I have. My solicitor, Karima Yelverton, my attorney, any legal questions that she may be able to answer or help you with. If we can't answer the questions today, you can always email us at row.online@phila.gov. We answer those. My team is on that, answering those questions 24/7. Again, our office is at City Hall, room 180. And the marriage department is on the 4th floor, room 414. If any of y'all get married, you'll see a mural. We just painted a selfie mural up there. John, show them our pretty selfie mural if you get a chance. Trying to make it fun, before you open the brochure and I hit you with, do you have a will? You need to make one. So
thank you so much, Registrar Gordon. Anastasia, would you like me to field questions or would you like to take the honor?
You can certainly field questions from the chat box. I can't see a lot of what's going on in there, but did want to thank you, Registrar Gordon, along with your colleagues. Great information. I did have a question that I wanted to just start off with, because I know that we as realtors can get down in the weeds. Just if you could, maybe a couple immediate steps that we can take as realtors when helping our clients, or just in general to get things in order, like 3 immediate things that we can begin to do?
I would like for you all to either get the brochures from us and copy them, but I would like for you all, we have a brochure that we give out, the importance of making wills. If you all can just give that brochure out or include that in your questionnaire when you do your intake, do you own property? Did you make a will? I think that would be helpful. Another thing that would be helpful is to understand the rules, like the rule about the short certificate. I would like for you all to understand that if they do need to go to the bank, if it's $10,000 or under, they can get access to that. And just know that the third thing is to know that, we're a phone call away. We are email away. We will help you all. I get calls from attorneys that said that our case is time sensitive, and we adjust for that. We just don't want it abused, because we do have, a schedule. But realtors call us all the time, or they email me all the time, or they go and roll online and say, look, I have to, it's time sensitive. We need to get in there and do that. And we've been making adjustments for you all. Well, I just said that, we felt it's better to, because of COVID. And we like the appointment schedule. That's much better because you can plan it, and you can plan it for your customer. But when it is an emergency, please call us, because we will make an adjustment for you.
Thank you so much. On that vein, there was a question of, is there a PDF version of the brochure that can be shared with our membership?
Yes. It's a PDF, John. We have the PDF version of our flyers, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So he will send it over. Anastasia, is it okay if he email it over to you?
He can just drop the link in the chat directly, and our membership will be able to access it.
Thank you.
We have one question from the membership. This might be a question for Karima. Is there a self-proving affidavit more expensive? Is a self-proving affidavit more expensive than other forms of a will?
A self-proving affidavit is actually just a part of a will, so it just would be included in the same price that the preparer charges to make it. It's not necessarily something different than any other will. It just gives us more surety that the persons who signed the will are who they say they are.
And you don't have to go and find the witnesses, it depends. Wills vary depending on the attorney you go to, depending on, the content and how much, so they vary. It's not that it's more expensive than the handwritten will, it's just that it's more bulletproof. That's the will that, it's hard to contest.
Thank you. Next question. Let's say you have written a will. Is there a way it can be recorded in the event that a relative cannot find it? And how do you make legal changes to this recorded will?
Well, in the state of Pennsylvania, we do not see the will until after the death. So the best practice is to make sure that the will is in a secure place. You may even have your attorney hold your will, and upon your death, your executor or executrix will know that they will go to the attorney. I certainly think that you should make a copy of the will. And the main thing is to let somebody know where it is, but you keep it in a locked box. Any other things, Karima?
I would just say that because we don't record the wills, it is important that you make a copy, because there are situations where we have accepted copies of wills for probate. So as long as it's executed, signed in all the proper spaces, it's possible for us to accept a copy of a will.
Thank you. Is a will prepared by an attorney any more enforceable than one written by the grantee if both have two witnesses and are notarized?
If I may, I don't know if that might be a typo, but the word grantee indicates that that's the person that's receiving the gift. And that is not a proper way to execute a will. A will should be written or by the person who's the testator or their legal representative. And the grantee cannot write their will. So maybe they meant the grantor, but all of these wills are equally enforceable as long as they have the characteristics of an enforceable will. I mean, it's written by the testator, it is signed at the end, it indicates who they would like to leave their gifts to, and it has the executor named.
Thank you.
And remember, the most important thing, signed at the end. So if you add something underneath your signature, that's not going to count. So that's why it has to be signed at the end. The reason why we have accepted handwritten wills. The reason why we recommend as a best practice for you to get an attorney to advise you and consult with you, because people have different complicated situations. They've been married before, they have children in other marriages, they're in common law relationships. And by the way, since January of 2005, the state of Pennsylvania no longer acknowledges common law marriage. It's abolished. There's no common law. Now, I've had people come in who have been with, their common law prior to that, but they have to show so much proof. They have to show so much proof on how, that prove that they were actually married. And you better believe people who know they weren't married, like brothers, sisters, ex-wives, whatever, they show up at that death and they will fight for that, for those assets. So I just wanted people to know that, because I still run into people thinking they come and say they were commonly law married. They've been with the person for this many years and they abolished it. So you have to know your rules. You have to know what's going on in the city. In the state. And also recently passed last year, you no longer can get married under the age of 18. You have to be
Thank
18.
God for that.
I know. I was like, that's still too young. But I mean, 'cause I'm looking at old marriage licenses and girls was getting married at 12 years old.
Well, thankfully, times have changed. We have another question for membership. This is regarding the administration of a will. This might be a Karima question. Will any or all expenditures related to the administration be returned to the administrator at the settlement of the estate? And part of that question also includes, some states have a clause baked into the administration. Can the administrator claim a percentage of the overall estate, like, for example, 6% of the overall wealth?
So that's an interesting question. An administrator can be entitled to a fee in Pennsylvania. Lawyers do need to be paid, or the people who are the administrators of the estate, they can elect to be paid. However, most people tend to work that out amongst the families. And we also need to take into consideration, the estate might not have assets to pay all this. Like some expenses have to be paid first, like the final expenses of death related to medical treatment, the funeral expenses, any like last and final bills related to their illness need to be paid before anybody else can be paid. So it depends on whether the estate has enough assets to cover what needs the debts that need to be paid. And we also want to consider what the heirs would get on the other side.
Okay, thank you. Would you advise
I'm sorry, Melody, could I just ask a question?
Sure.
That a lot of times you see where people don't know if their loved ones had outstanding bills and different things, whether it be medical or what have you, and they're just never brought to the table. How is that? I know we always, there's a receipt for funeral expenses and things like that, but when it comes to medical bills or just any other things where monies need to be paid out, like you're saying that should be paid prior to anyone else being paid, how do you advise that be handled correctly?
So proper estate administration would generally require that the administrator or the executor advertise the estate, which means a creditor could see that advertisement and send a letter saying this decedent owe us this amount of money and demand that they be paid. And that should normally be a 1-year period where those people have the opportunity to respond. And the administrator is required to pay those people as, as if their debts are valid prior to releasing any of the estate's assets to the heirs. So that is the proper way to administer an estate. A lot of people do not do that because of the expense, or they are well aware of the person's expenses because they are the primary caretaker and they've been receiving the bills. So, I mean, a lot of people don't do that, but they should, because that's how you get what's due to creditors from the decedent.
Thank you. Would you advise the seller to add someone onto the deed if they intend to leave them the property?
That's a question they should ask an attorney that knows their specific needs.
And I would just advise everyone on the call, if you ever have a legal question, we always have the PAR legal hotline. Hank Lerner, counsel for PAR, he is excellent. I would suggest people reach out if they have specific legal questions of that nature.
And Melody, excuse me. And that's a question that is really sensitive because everybody has different, it's different situations. So that's just not a yes or no question. That's a question that the family, the testator need to consult with an attorney so he can tell them all the scenarios, and then they can advise you legally on, if you do this, this could happen. If you don't do this, this could happen. So that's not a question that's a personal question that should be discussed personally with an attorney, preferably an estate attorney.
Thank you. This question is kind of in the weeds. And you'll have to forgive me, Henry, if I mispronounce this. Explain a codicil or an addendum to the will. What priority will the codicil be to the original will? And question 2, if the will is challenged based on intent or the interpretation of the intent of the deceased.
So a codicil makes changes, additions, or subtractions to a will that already makes a gift to be given at the person's death. So I don't think it's a question of priority. The original will still stands and the codicil just makes changes to what was there. So dates matter, yes, but the codicil is not a new will in and of itself. If the will is challenged based on intent, then the codicil will be challenged with the same effort. I mean, they go together. Now, if there were 2 separate wills, that would be more of an issue as to which one would take priority, like which one was later in time, because that's the one that most likely will take priority, the one that's later in time, as long as the person is not incapacitated. But a codicil is just changes to a will that's already in existence and most likely will be found valid.
Thank you. This last question is a bit of a policy question from our diversity chair, and I think it's very relevant to Fair Housing Month. How does the lack of wills or tangled titles attribute to squatting or homelessness?
Well, look at the land bank. Something happened there. Something happened. Somebody died and didn't have any heirs, or no heirs didn't know that they died and had property. Definitely look at the sheriff's cell. A lot of wills go to the sheriff's cell because people aren't paying taxes, back taxes. People lose houses for back taxes as well. We pay taxes here, and in the city of Philadelphia, are more aggressive on collecting their taxes. When you don't legally own a property, you don't have any legal rights over the property. So when a house falls in disrepair, how many people can just pull out $5,000 from their bank account to repair a heater? How many people could, if that sewage line backs up in the street, the city no longer says they're responsible for it? You can't even get homeowners insurance. So if a house burns down, how many of us right here on this a webinar, how many of us can afford to rebuild a house? When they're in Tangled titles, you cannot get homeowners insurance because you're not the homeowner. So it's just basic, it's a problem that has persisted in Philadelphia. And guess what? It's very unique to Philadelphia because I belong to the Realtors of the Register of Wills Association of Pennsylvania. And the other counties don't have this problem. It's very unique to Philadelphia. And that's so unfortunate. And that's why I made it part of my platform to educate people about the importance of estate planning. And that's why I'm here today with you all, is because I think that you all have a role in assisting your clients to understand. And when you sell them their property, hey, you need to read this brochure. You might want to make a will so you can protect your assets, protecting your generational wealth. We're sitting on $1.1 billion worth of debt capital in the city of Philadelphia. And as a realtor, I know you all know how big of a problem that is. Not just personally because you all can't sell the property, but just, just environment of abandoned property. There's some parts of Philadelphia that it's just all abandoned, vacant land. We know that those properties probably were Tangled titles. We know that those properties, and I also, I wanted you all to read, go and look at segregatedbydesign.com. Segregatedbydesign.com. I just was going over city planning. I've been a member of Philadelphia 2035.org. You all need to look at that plan. Each cities go through their planning stage, and during between, what was it? I think it's between the 20s and going up to the 60s, there was a aggressive redlining in the city of Philadelphia. If y'all read that, if y'all look at that, I think y'all should look at that film so you can kind of understand the dynamics of what goes on with real estate and what happened in Philadelphia. And that's in the city planning. That particular film will tell you that, redlining had a lot to do with people, poor people, particularly Black and brown people's ability to even thrive with their properties. So, it do need to be a study conducted on, what happened. I mean, that was definitely a cause and a consequence of not making wills and not understanding estate planning. And so I think it's my obligation as a servant, elected servant, to educate people on how they can protect their assets and pass their generation down to their families.
Thank you so much, Madam Register. I just want to make a point that GPAR has brought it to all of our membership to read The Color of Law, A Forgotten History of How Our Government Segregated Americas by Richard Rothstein. That also speaks to the history of redlining nationwide. But with that, we're about out of time. Thank you, Henry. Yes, a great book. Thank you. And thank you for your questions. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to our diversity chair, Anastasia.
Thank you all so much for this presentation. I know we all learned something from this. Looking forward to cultivating this relationship and bringing more of this great and powerful information to the realtors, and then maybe eventually even to the greater public if we can assist in that way. I didn't see the link to the PDF pamphlet in the chat. So if we could get that by way of email, we will certainly distribute that the best way that we can. I have nothing further. I just want to thank you all again for a powerful presentation on behalf of myself, my co-chair, and our entire Diversity Committee. And thank you to Matt, Melody, and staff for helping us produce this event. Matt or Melody, I don't know if you have any closing housekeeping, but if not, I will say good afternoon to you all, or it's still morning. Have a great